three-eyed screamer. Once again, I stood at the entrance of my house looking out at the black mist, twisting, coiling, folding in on itself like a box. This time I waited alone. Mortimer's presence was requested by the Divine Mother, so he has been gone for a while. Hamish has taken on his duty of escorting our next guest to Halfway House 17. There, in the distance, I saw them. A small boy walked ahead, cutting through the mist, followed by a wafting ethereal form. She floated behind him, her arms protectively around the boy, preventing the mist from touching him. Her eyes blazed green. All three of them. I could see them from my porch. She stared at me. Closer. Closer. Black mist shards attacked the boy, ripping and turning rapidly like several drills spinning towards him. A scream ripped through the mist, forcing it back from the boy. The ethereal form's mouth was wide open, still screaming. A blast disintegrated everything in its path as it fanned out. Black mist close to the house was gone. The boy walked to the porch as if he was walking home from school. The ethereal form remained still, guarding the area behind him, scanning. 3 green beams from her eyes exposed bits of black mist reforming, spinning, folding, creeping towards her as she glanced around. The boy stepped onto the porch, changing form immediately to that of a ginger cat. "Thank you, Hamish," I said, reaching down and stroking his head. Hamish looked up at me and then trotted inside. The ethereal form darted at the porch. Crossing the first step, she transformed into a Caucasian woman. Mid-30s, I'd say, dressed in running gear with a head torch on. A blue gilet covered her torso. It matched her trainers. She switched her head torch off. "Please come in, Miranda. The lounge is to the left." Miranda looked at me. Her hazel eyes sparkled. "You have a child. I can smell his presence on you. Where is he? I'd like to see him," Miranda said. "He is with his mother." "We can talk inside." Miranda walked inside the house, turning left into the lounge. I watched her as she looked around the room. The room appeared as if it was plucked straight out of a Charles Dickens novel. Miranda pulled her sleeves over her hands as she sat down in an armchair near the fire. I took my place in the other armchair. I crossed my legs and watched her. I went out for a run. Miranda touched her gilet. "I've been wearing the same outfit ever since." She stopped as if caught in a trance. "My baby boy Christian was 11 months old. I just got him to sleep. My husband was working from home, so I thought I'd get a quick run in before dinner. Roughly 20 minutes in, my legs felt good, so I increased my pace. I was getting back into it, steady and strong, along the country road that I'd run regularly. Pavement was narrow, but I was firmly on it with my head torch on. I felt a hard thump on my back. Miranda looked at the flames licking the logs on the fireplace. She turned to me. Her eyes reflected the same colors. I remember loud talking, laughing. "Got it done," I heard someone say that. After, I came to in a ditch. My head torch was broken. It was twilight, I think. Not daytime, but not nighttime either. Everything was a blur. Must have been lying in that ditch all night. Didn't feel any type of pain, so I got up and began walking home. Just wanted to see my baby. Not sure how long I was going, but everything was still gloomy, like a fog had settled in permanently. I saw headlights ahead. Bonnet was open. I picked up the pace to the car. Hopefully the man had a phone to call my husband to come get me. He turned around, stopping me in my tracks. "James. It was my James. He'd come looking for me." I ran to the car. My baby was in his seat in the back. I went to the car window. "Hello, buddy." I grabbed the handle of the car only to slide straight through it. Wow, I almost crashed into my baby in his seat. James was looking at me, only he didn't see me. "James, James," I said. He smiled. I smiled. He sees me, I thought. Only he didn't. He was smiling at our boy. The little mite was giving me a huge smile. He could see me, but James couldn't. Miranda looked at me. The young ones usually can because they're open. They have not absorbed the rules and culture of their world yet. As they get older, understand more. That door slowly closes, I said. Tears fell from Miranda's eyes. I couldn't bear it, not holding my son when he wanted me to. I reached out, but I couldn't grasp him. It was too much, so I went to James at the bonnet. James, please see me. James, I said. But he didn't take any notice. My baby just looked at me, holding his hands out, calling me. He cried, trying to pull out of his seat. Miranda looked at her fingers, nails sharp onto long pin-shaped claws. It just came out. I shrieked in grief. My voice shattered the windows. James fell to the ground, holding his ears. Baby Christian just screamed more. It was awful. Miranda cried. Her face hollowed, her eyes blazed green, as her teeth faded to reveal a black gaping hole where her mouth should be. Her frame faded into an ethereal form, her hair gone to reveal a dome-shaped head. Shall I scream for you, gatekeeper? Miranda's mouth stretched wide open. It was now the size of her face. She screamed. There was no sound. She tried again. No sound. She withdrew, forming back to a human self. My house, my rules. Would you like to continue your story? I kept my eyes on her. Miranda spoke, but there was no sound because I refused her voice. Just making a point. Curb your rage and then continue, I said. Miranda glared at me. Her eyes blazed green along with her head torch, shining directly at me. It dimmed as she inhaled. I already hurt them. Best to go, so I left my baby and James. That killed me. Every step was hard, but I had to do it. They're my family. Before I knew it, I was floating away. My feet didn't even touch the ground. Thing is, I could not leave the road. I floated for miles, but it was still grey. Everything looked faded. Cars zipped by, but their lights faded too, as if someone had drained all the colour from the world. What could I do? I kept going. But the road remained the same in both directions. After a while, it felt like the fog was in my head. Everything felt hazy. I couldn't think clearly. All I had was the thought of my baby. I saw a car drive past with a baby in the back. Christian. I wanted to hold my Christian. It lifted my mood for a while, so I'd follow the car until it left the road. Another car came by. No baby, so I waited. As much as seeing a baby lifted me, not seeing one dropped me. Each passing car reminded me that I was not at home holding my baby. I managed to settle back down to walking on the side of the road. Most cars didn't even see me. A couple did. They swerved and kept going. One stopped. An old man came out looking for me, but he couldn't see me standing there right in front of him. I gestured to him, spoke to him, but he looked right through me. I kept hearing someone talking. It sounded like I was underwater. Got it done. Got it done. It got annoying, so I screamed. The car window shattered. The man flopped to the ground. Blood leaked from his eyes and ears. The old man died in a pool of blood. Police came. It was a big kerfuffle for a while. I tried to get their attention. Could have been dancing in front of them naked, but they still wouldn't see me. Just wanted some help to get back to my baby, gatekeeper. Miranda looked at me, her eyes circling green flecks. Got it done, Got it done. There it was again. Where the hell is that coming from? I waved my hands at the police officer. Nothing. And then I screamed. This one lasted longer than the first. Miranda squeezed her left shoulder to ease discomfort. How many did you end? I said. They see me when I screamed. A woman police officer saw me just before her eyes popped. A colleague tried to stop hearing me by stabbing his ears with his pen. The others, paramedics, forensics, didn't fare well either. One forensics man's head exploded clean off. I think I counted 14 in total. Word spread about this road being haunted by a woman, so people came flocking to see me. But that didn't end well either. I just had to scream. One driver saw me and drove straight into a tree, killing his entire family. Another man didn't make it out the car before his brain exploded. I gave them what they wanted, but soon people avoided the road altogether. Just zipped straight through without stopping, even if they saw me. The local council posted a road sign saying, "No stopping to pick up hitchhikers." I was alone again. Didn't see much else until I saw this car zooming down the road. Whoosh, I went for it, darting straight in, screaming. The woman driver covered her ears, and then I saw the baby in the back seat. He looked like my Christian. I stopped. The car zipped down the road and disappeared around a bend. Got it done. Got it done. Came again. It was louder than before. There was nobody about. I searched. There it was, down past a ditch. A blue SUV had hazard lights on. A woman was stood at the car talking loudly on a phone. She held a bottle of vodka in her other hand. I thought her gilet was the same as mine, but it had a red back and side. A baby was crying in the back. I looked at him. The poor thing looked frozen. He stopped to catch his breath. He didn't even have a hat on to cover his little head. But the stupid woman had her door open with not a care in the world, talking loudly on the phone. She'd stop to swig the bottle every so often. The baby was freezing in the back. I lost it. A calmness came over me. Something made me turn and look uphill. The boy was stood there. Miranda peered at me. He was the one that brought me here. Where is he, gatekeeper? Before I could respond, she grabbed her shoulder. It hurts. It hurts. Miranda's shoulder fell forward, loose, hanging by her skin. Her whole left side torso peeled forward, flopping. Miranda's eyes blazed green. Her head torch came on, blasting its ray on the fireplace. She transformed into a full banshee. Her appearance darkened. Gatekeeper, where is your child? She roared. I raised my head and listened. A baby's cry was heard. Miranda snapped her head left, looking behind her. Stay in your seat, and you will be safe, I said. She roared. Miranda shot up in the air, but I was there first, my left hand on her shoulder. I pressed her down back in her seat. She glared at me, blinding me with her green eyes, all three of them. Her mouth opened wide and gave a terrible screech. But its blast was barely audible to me. You can scream all you want, but your voice will remain at a low hum until I say otherwise. Please remain seated, I urge you. Miranda gripped the armchair. Nails penetrated the leather, cutting into the sponge. Gaping mouth closed to lips touching. Darkness faded to reveal her usual self. I'm sorry, she said. Talking whispers filtered into the room. A crying baby was heard. Christian! Miranda flew off her chair, grabbing me by the throat. She pinned me to the wall, morphing into a banshee. Gaunt face edged towards mine until we were nose to nose. You abandoned your child, gatekeeper. You will pay for that, she whispered. Hear me now. She widened her mouth. It was pitch black inside. It got closer. I shoved my fist straight down her throat, stretching my fingers, gripped her spinal cord. K, k, k. Miranda choked. I held fast, peering at her as her hand slipped from my neck. I lowered my fist, forcing her ethereal form to her knees. My eyes blazed blue fire. You seem to want to know about my son. Here is all I've got, I said, tightening my grip on her spinal cord. I cast my mind back to the time my son was born. I had to leave my wife Keely and our son for their safety and mine. I left and headed out without looking back because I knew that if I did, I wouldn't be able to leave them. Soon after, we'd all be separate death, unable to return to each other. It felt like someone had thrust a knife soaked in salt into my heart. Tears leaked from my eyes as I gave Miranda everything I felt from recalling that memory. I opened my eyes to watch her on fire. Blue flames engulfed her completely, only she could not shriek because I still held on to her spinal cord. Hamish stood at the entrance to the study. I looked at him as he sauntered over to me and brushed himself against my legs. I calmed. Blue fire eased. Miranda burned less. After a few seconds, the flames extinguished completely. Miranda's green eyes and head torch faded. She blinked. Hamish looked at Miranda, then at me. I'm not done with her yet, I said, dragging her out the room to the study across the hall. It instantly changed to the side of the road beyond the ditch. The blue SUV was still there with the woman stood at the open door talking on a video call on her phone. Baby was still crying. I pulled my hand out of Miranda's throat. She floated towards the car, transforming into the runner that first entered my house. Moving around the car, she stopped and looked at me. Got it done, she said. She looked at the woman on the phone. Got it done, the woman on the phone said. Miranda looked at the baby in the back of the car. Christian. She looked at me. I nodded. Miranda looked at the woman stood at the car door. Her blue gilet slowly changed color, darkening as blood poured out of her side. The woman at the car turned and faced me. It was Miranda, clutching a bottle of vodka in one hand and a phone in the other. She looked down at the blood-soaked driver's seat. A branch had pierced her left shoulder, pinning her there. Her phone and bottle were on the floor near the pedals. The woman turned back to me, fading as she slid back into Miranda, who was stood on the other side of the car, blood still soaking her gilet. I walked to Miranda and stopped a few feet from her. Your mind played a trick on you to keep you from falling beyond the rim. It made you forget what happened and replaced it with a healthier memory. Trouble is, you. I pointed at my center. The real you would not forget what really happened. It never does, so the memory naturally surfaced. A banshee is made from self-loathing. I know now, gatekeeper, I was not fit to be a mother. I loved my boy, but life at home was not so rosy. I left in the car that night, strapping Christian in the back. I was talking to my friend on the phone, telling her I'd got it done. Miranda looked at the car. Christian, please tell me I didn't hurt Christian. A form more banshee than Miranda. I watched her as she faded between the two. Her green eyes were a stark contrast to the black pit of her mouth. Her locks lengthened, dangling from her back. Flowing rags covered her entirely, except her hands and feet, both with long, sharp nails exposed. She floated off the ground. Gatekeeper, I want the boy who brought me here. I turned to Hamish, who looked at me. Follow me and I'll take you to him, I said. Heading out the room, Miranda followed. Hamish fell in behind her as I strode out the lounge. Descending the stairs, 2 flights down to the sub-basement, I turned left and stopped at the second door on the left. Banshee came and floated beside me. You would not trick me, would you, gatekeeper? Miranda said. Your son Christian is with his father. You need to go through this door. I opened the door to reveal the black forest. Yellow eyes blinked into existence around the trees. Miranda looked at them. Hamish said. He transformed into the boy. He strode through the door, followed by Miranda, who raised her arms in protection around him. I closed the door and retreated back to the lounge, where I sat down. A single malt whiskey waited on the table beside my armchair. Hamish will return once he has delivered Miranda deep into the Black Forest. She should feel right at home there. It is full of an assortment of creatures, just like her. Hamish will retrieve her when she is ready to return to the halfway house. But in my experience, once a banshee, it takes a long, long time to work through that self-loathing. A mistake of that caliber can affect you deeply, even after you die. Remember that. Tread carefully. See you next Sunday at 11, where I'll introduce you to another guest. Stay safe. Don't die in your sleep. Godspeed.